She was left to die in a foreign country but shocked everyone by coming back healthy and rich. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. The scorching sun beat down mercilessly as Nina adjusted her sunglasses, trying to ignore the unease brewing in her chest. She stood at the observation deck of a towering skyscraper, marveling at the glittering skyline of Dubai. This was supposed to be the start of something incredible. Her first step toward building an international business empire with Victor, her husband of 5 years. Their joint venture in luxury property development was gaining traction back home, and this trip was meant to solidify partnerships with wealthy investors in the Middle East. Victor had always been the charismatic one, charming investors with his silver tongue and impeccable style. Nina was the strategic brain, meticulously planning every deal and ensuring their projects stayed on track. Together they made the perfect team, or so she thought. That morning, Victor had suggested they split up to meet different clients. He handed her a crisp folder containing details of a high-profile meeting at a luxury hotel and encouraged her to take charge. "You've got this, Nina," he said with his trademark grin, planting a kiss on her forehead. His confidence was contagious, and she left with a renewed sense of purpose. But now, standing alone in the heat of the afternoon, Nina couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The meeting had been a disaster. No one at the hotel seemed to know who she was or why she was there. The contact details in the folder led to disconnected phone numbers. Embarrassed and confused, she tried calling Victor, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Her unease turned to panic when she returned to their hotel suite to find it cleared out. Victor's belongings were gone, as were the documents for their latest project and the emergency cash they'd stashed in the safe. A chilling realization washed over her. She had been set up. Desperately, she scoured their emails and financial records, using her phone as her only connection to the outside world. That's when she uncovered the final blow. Victor had drained their joint accounts. Every last dollar was gone, leaving her stranded in a foreign country with no money, no contacts, and no way home. Nina's first instinct was to go to the police, but the language barrier and her lack of identification made it nearly impossible to file a proper report. She didn't even have enough cash to hail a cab back to the city center. Alone and terrified, she wandered the unfamiliar streets, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Hours turned into days as Nina scrambled to survive. She pawned her wedding ring at a meager price to buy herself a few nights in a rundown hostel. Her pride took a hit as she rummaged through her purse for coins to pay for water and cheap food. Victor's betrayal played on a loop in her mind, each memory sharpening her resolve to find answers. She began piecing together the fragments of her husband's scheme. Victor had always been ambitious, but his charm had a dark edge, one that Nina had overlooked too many times. She realized he'd been planning this betrayal for months, meticulously erasing her from their shared ventures and siphoning their funds into offshore accounts. What hurt most wasn't the financial loss. It was the personal betrayal. Nina had trusted Victor, poured her heart into building their dream together, only to be discarded like a pawn in his selfish game. But she refused to let him win. On her third night in the hostel, Nina met Fatima, a local woman who worked as a receptionist. Fatima noticed Nina's haggard appearance and hesitation at the check-in counter. She offered her a discounted rate and later a plate of home-cooked food. Grateful and desperate for companionship, Nina confided in Fatima about her predicament. Fatima listened with wide eyes and offered her some advice. "In this city, connections are everything," she said. "If you want to survive, you need to find people who believe in you." Encouraged by Fatima's kindness, Nina began exploring Dubai's bustling markets and business districts, searching for opportunities to rebuild her life. Her first breakthrough came when she overheard a conversation in a cafe about a startup looking for freelance consultants. Drawing on her extensive knowledge of property management, Nina pitched herself to the startup's founder, a young entrepreneur named Kareem. Kareem was skeptical of Nina's story but impressed by her expertise. He gave her a chance to work on a trial basis, helping him scout locations for a new luxury development project. Despite her lack of resources, Nina threw herself into the job with everything she had. She walked miles under the blistering sun, scribbling notes in a borrowed notebook, and used public computers at internet cafes to prepare detailed reports. As weeks turned into months, Nina's reputation began to grow. Karim introduced her to other entrepreneurs in Dubai's tight-knit business community, and soon she was working multiple contracts, earning just enough to rent a small apartment and start saving for her future. But Nina didn't stop there. With every deal she closed and every connection she made, she kept one goal in mind: finding Victor. She was determined to track him down and confront him for what he'd done. She knew that Dubai's elite circles were small and interconnected. All she had to do was wait for him to show his face. 1 year after being abandoned, Nina stood on the balcony of her modest apartment, gazing at the same skyline that had once filled her with despair. The city had become her battlefield, and she was winning. Her client list now included some of the most influential developers in the region, and she was on the verge of launching her own real estate firm. But the most important step was yet to come. Nina had uncovered a lead. Victor was in Dubai, working under an alias and posing as a wealthy investor. It was time to take back what was hers and expose him for the fraud he was. As she prepared for the confrontation, Nina couldn't help but smile. She had been left for dead, but now she was ready to rise from the ashes and show the world what she was capable of. Nina's determination burned brighter than ever. Over the next few months, she poured every ounce of her energy into building her reputation as a formidable real estate consultant. She kept a low profile, aware that Victor might hear whispers of her return. It wasn't just about survival anymore. Nina wanted to rise above the ashes and face him as an equal, or better yet, as someone far beyond his reach. Her strategy was meticulous. She networked tirelessly, attending every business event she could manage to secure an invitation to, even ones that seemed out of her league. Dressed in rented evening wear and wearing confidence like armor, she moved through the glittering halls of Dubai's elite gatherings, charming potential clients with her sharp insights and undeniable expertise. Karim proved to be a pivotal ally, introducing her to key players in the market. With his help, she secured her first independent contract to oversee the redevelopment of a prime piece of beachfront property. The project's success catapulted her into the spotlight, and offers began flooding in. For the first time in a year, Nina felt like she was truly in control of her destiny. But her success wasn't without challenges. Victor's betrayal had left her wary of trusting anyone fully. She kept her circle small, her plans secret. Every night, she reviewed her growing portfolio and tracked Victor's movements in the shadows. Her research confirmed what she suspected. Victor was living off the money he had stolen from her, using it to ingratiate himself with influential figures in the region. He had built a facade of wealth and power, but Nina knew it was all hollow. It was only a matter of time before she brought it crashing down. Her opportunity came sooner than expected. At a high-profile industry gala, she spotted him across the room. Victor was laughing with a group of investors, his charm on full display. Nina felt a surge of anger but forced herself to stay composed. This wasn't the moment to confront him. Not yet. Instead, she approached one of the investors in his circle, a silver-haired gentleman named Amir, who was known for his extensive property holdings across the region. Nina introduced herself and quickly steered the conversation toward business. Within minutes, Amir was engrossed in her ideas for revitalizing underperforming properties. As they spoke, she noticed Victor glancing in their direction, his smile faltering when their eyes briefly met. She didn't let it rattle her. Instead, she doubled down on her pitch, securing an invitation to Amir's office the following week to discuss potential collaborations. By the end of the evening, Nina felt victorious. Victor now knew she was alive and thriving, but she hadn't given him the satisfaction of an emotional reaction. The game had begun, and she was holding all the cards. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of strategic moves. Nina worked tirelessly to strengthen her partnerships with Amir and other key investors, gradually positioning herself as a rising star in the industry. She also kept tabs on Victor's activities, uncovering a pattern of deceit that mirrored what he had done to her. He was stringing along investors with empty promises, using their money to maintain his lavish lifestyle while delivering little in return. Nina knew she needed to act decisively. With Amir's backing, she secured a deal to purchase a portfolio of properties that Victor had been vying for. The acquisition was a public spectacle, a clear sign that Nina was a force to be reckoned with. For the first time, Victor was on the defensive, his carefully constructed image beginning to crack. Their inevitable confrontation came at a private auction for a prime piece of real estate. Nina had deliberately chosen this moment, knowing Victor couldn't resist attending. Dressed in a tailored suit that exuded power and confidence, she entered the room with Amir by her side. The room buzzed with excitement as the bidding began, but Nina's focus never wavered. She outbid Victor at every turn, her offers precise and calculated. When the gavel finally struck, signaling her victory, the room erupted in applause. Victor, visibly shaken, approached her as the crowd began to disperse. "Nina," he said, forcing a smile, "I didn't expect to see you here." She met his gaze with a calm intensity. "Did you really think you could get rid of me so easily, Victor?" she replied. "I'm not the same woman you left behind." Victor's charm faltered, replaced by a flicker of panic. "Listen, I can explain." "You don't need to," Nina interrupted. "I've already uncovered everything. The lies, the stolen money, the fake deals. It's over, Victor." He tried to protest, but Nina didn't give him the chance. With a sharp turn, she walked away, leaving him standing alone in the center of the room. The moment felt like a symbolic victory, but Nina knew her work wasn't done. Victor still had allies, and she needed to ensure he couldn't manipulate anyone else the way he had manipulated her. In the days that followed, Nina set her final plan into motion. She compiled a comprehensive dossier of Victor's fraudulent activities, including testimony from investors he had scammed and evidence of the offshore accounts he had used to hide his stolen funds. With Amir's help, she presented the evidence to the authorities, ensuring that Victor would face legal consequences for his actions. As the news of Victor's arrest spread, Nina felt a deep sense of closure. The man who had tried to destroy her was finally being held accountable, and she had reclaimed her life on her own terms. But the most satisfying part wasn't watching Victor fall. It was knowing that she had risen above his betrayal, stronger and more successful than ever. With Victor behind bars and her reputation firmly established, Nina thought her chapter with him was closed. But success in Dubai's competitive world didn't mean life was without challenges. The fallout from Victor's arrest rippled through the industry. Investors who had been duped by his schemes were cautious, and whispers of her connection to him began to spread. Although Nina had made it clear she was his victim, not his accomplice, some questioned her meteoric rise. Still, Nina stayed focused. She had always known that proving herself in an environment where trust was everything would require more than just surviving Victor's betrayal. She doubled down on her work, ensuring every project she touched became a success story. The beachfront property she had redeveloped turned into a luxury resort, attracting international acclaim. Her name began appearing in industry magazines as a symbol of resilience and innovation. Then, one evening, as she was finalizing details for a new contract, she received an unexpected message. It was from a lawyer representing one of Victor's former associates. He claimed to have information that could benefit her and requested a private meeting. Suspicious but curious, Nina agreed, meeting him at a quiet cafe away from the city's prying eyes. The lawyer handed her a thick folder. "These documents detail Victor's activities in the months leading up to his betrayal," he explained. "You might find them useful." As she sifted through the papers, Nina's blood ran cold. The documents revealed that Victor hadn't acted alone. He had been part of a larger scheme involving influential figures in Dubai's business world, many of whom still operated freely. What's more, they had used her projects as a front for laundering money, with Victor as their fall guy if things went south. "This is why you were targeted," the lawyer said, his voice low. "You were the perfect cover, an ambitious outsider with no local connections. Nina's mind raced. The revelation was both devastating and empowering. For months, she had believed Victor's actions were born of personal greed, but now she saw the full scope of the betrayal. She wasn't just fighting one man. She was up against a web of corruption that had exploited her. She could have walked away. With Victor out of the picture and her career thriving, she had every reason to leave the past behind. But Nina wasn't the type to turn a blind eye. The thought of others falling victim to the same system that had nearly destroyed her was unacceptable. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Nina worked in secret, gathering evidence and building alliances. She reached out to trusted contacts in the industry, including Amir, who had become both a mentor and a friend. Together, they strategized a way to expose the corruption without jeopardizing her growing empire. When the time came to act, Nina executed her plan with precision. She leaked key documents to investigative journalists, ensuring the story would make headlines worldwide. The revelations rocked Dubai's business elite, leading to arrests, resignations, and a wave of reforms aimed at restoring integrity to the industry. But Nina didn't stop there. Using her newfound influence, she founded an organization dedicated to supporting women entrepreneurs, providing them with the resources and mentorship she wished she'd had during her darkest days. The initiative quickly gained traction, attracting support from high-profile figures across the globe. At the launch event for the organization, Nina stood on stage, addressing a packed audience of industry leaders, journalists, and aspiring entrepreneurs. Dressed in a sleek white gown, she exuded confidence and grace as she shared her story, not just of survival, but of transformation. "I was left with nothing," she began, her voice steady. "But what I learned is that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, we have the power to rise. And when we rise, we have a responsibility to lift others with us." The room erupted in applause, and Nina felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just about vindication. It was about creating a legacy that would outlast her and ensure no one else had to endure what she had. As the event wound down, Amir approached her, holding a glass of champagne. "You've come a long way, Nina," he said, raising his glass. "To think, a year ago you were trying to find your footing, and now you're leading a movement." Nina smiled, clinking her glass against his. "To resilience," she said. "And to never underestimating the power of a woman with nothing to lose." Later that evening, as she stood on the balcony of her penthouse apartment, overlooking the city that had both tested and transformed her, Nina allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The journey had been brutal, filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty. But it had also been a testament to her strength, a reminder that even when life tried to break her, she had the power to rebuild. Victor's downfall had been just the beginning. Nina's success wasn't about revenge. It was about proving to herself and the world that she was more than the woman he had tried to destroy. She had turned her pain into power, and now she was unstoppable. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story.